is Catherine. I'm an English lecturer at the Center for Language in Education, and I've been teaching English enhancement programs at our university for almost 8 years. In Hong Kong, from early childhood education to secondary education, English is almost one of the most important academic subjects for all the students. Well, when they enter universities, for the students that I'm going to teach, most of them are not really English major students. They don't really study English as the core subject anymore. And then the status actually changed the student attitude a little bit as well. Though they think English is important, but then another situation that they have to deal with is that their motivation seems like is dropping compared with their secondary school time, because they don't really have much pressure for them to attempt a test like DAC exam. Then when they study at universities, I guess the most challenge for me as an English lecturer is how to motivate them to learn. As I look for the ways to deal with this challenge, I always try to think of my own learning path when I was a student. And then putting myself into students' shoes actually helped me to figure out a better way how to improve the learning and teaching actually for my students. Then I think all the learners are the same. We all need teachers actually to provide more stimuli for them to make more effort in their learning. So in general, my principle, always say my teaching philosophy is grounded on the understanding that I, as the teacher, have to provide more elements in the classroom, even outside of classroom, for them to participate in, and then their motivation in learning could increase. So the first principle that I've adopted is that I try to relate real-life problems towards learning. For adult learners, I guess this relationship connecting to the reality problems actually is very important. Especially our students are not secondary students anymore. They're adult learners. Adult learners in general, they have more expectations on themselves, and also they want to see how this course or how this skill that I'm going to pick up from this course could be able to help them in their academic studies and also in their future employment. So this is very natural, and one thing that I do actually is trying to make more language learning activities authentic. And this kind of authenticity actually helps students to see how it could be able to help them to solve the problems in their academic studies and even their future life. So for example, when I'm teaching different programs, I'm trying to ask them what kinds of academic topics that they have to discuss in their own discipline. And in academic writing courses, I try to ask them to tell me what kind of writing assessments that you actually received from your professors or lecturers in your own discipline. And then we solve the problems together. And we hope that students can use the skills that they're going to acquire in my course and then to use them and apply them in their own studies. Then in this way, they could be able to see, well, the academic writing skills actually are not only an English skill, well, it's more like a skill that is universally applicable in their academic studies. So in this way, students' motivation increases with their understanding of more of how English language can help them in their academic studies. I guess we adult learners need this kind of relation to be explicitly explained and shown to them, so they could be able to make more effort and motivate them to continue their studies at universities. The second way that I use in my teaching to enhance learner motivation is actually to integrate more active technology into the classroom. In the 21st century, innovative technology has actually changed our classroom practice a lot. In my experience, I think it enhances learning very much. Say, for example, it could be able to make learning more engaging, more interesting, and also inspiring. So now our students can respond instantaneously to any surveys and activities and even quizzes at the same time. We don't really need a pencil and a paper anymore. They also can work with lecturers and also students in real time. They just need Wi-Fi and also a mobile phone. I think this is actually works very effectively to motivate students to really engage in, compared with traditional activities when we ask them to bring their handouts in and also write on a piece of worksheets. Then most of them, they quickly take out their mobile phone and try to answer the questions, and then they look at the screen when you're projecting the activities. So in my classroom, I often use quite a lot of learning mobile apps to ask them to learn in a more efficient way. Say, for example, some of their popular activities are like Kahoots, Google Forms, Google Surveys. Those actually are very popular among my students. They get very excited once they ask them to compete with each other by answering the questions. In language acquisition in particular, I think students need to practice more and enhance their language skills through active interactions with people in a learning context. And this interaction can happen anywhere and anytime with the integration of technology and in and outside of the classroom. The second benefit of integrating technology into the classroom is that it helps some of the students who are very shy to communicate with people in face-to-face mode, particularly with a lecturer. Then when they are actually expressing themselves through an online platform, they actually feel less embarrassed and less afraid of making mistakes. And in this way, they're actually making more progress through this kind of participation. So another thing that I can see from my students is that outside of the classroom, students actually can continue their studies. And through the online platforms, they can continue their discussion with their classmates on the online platforms, for example, forum discussions, or their some of the wiki pages. They can do it together. And then this is what we say collaborative learning. And collaborative learning, of course, is also based on the idea that teaching has to be more student-led. Then teachers will not dominate the whole teaching and learning process. They could be able to explore and construct knowledge and skills themselves. Then, of course, this is also going to be much more interesting than what teachers are going to teach you. If teachers always stand in front of you and say, okay, this is what you need, then this is what our students are always joking about. We're having spoon-fed education. So in the university, I want my students to explore, and at the same time, they also need to take responsibilities of what they are going to learn. Then their role is becoming more active. Of course, their motivation increases as well. I guess for our students, integrating e-learning activities is also very inspiring, because most of our students might be a teacher after they graduate. And then if I could be able to show them how we could be able to use technology to enhance learning in my courses, and the students also could be able to see, all right, I can use the same way to integrate in my lesson plans and future design. So role modeling how to use technology into classroom, not only actually help them learn, help themselves learn, but probably could be able to provide some inspirations for them how to teach in the future. And some of my students actually said, I actually used one of the apps you introduced to me in my teaching practice, and that was very fun, and students really liked it. For students, they need to cultivate the digital literacy. This is the basic skill that everybody needs to succeed. I guess another thing that all the teachers need to pay attention to is that whether we always provide a lot of feedback or say effective learning support to our students, because this is actually comes from one of my reflections when I was a student. Then when I became a teacher, I actually made a lot of effort in how to give more feedback, and especially individualize the feedback to my students, so that could be able to see their strengths, weaknesses, and also some of the methods that could be able to be given to them, providing them some of the directions for future studies. Trying to give them more feedback through different platforms. We do have individual consultations, but usually individual consultations tend to be very short because we have too many students in a group. Then how can we solve this problem? So I started to explore some of the other ways. For example, I use online comments by using turn-in voice comments. They can hear my voice.
Hi Mandy, I've just read your first draft and I would like to comment on a few things. Um, in general, I think your writing is organized. All the essential parts that we need have been presented, and there is a introduction, a few body paragraphs, and a conclusion. And at the end of text references is also provided here. Well, as you can see from the highlighted part in yellow, these are the general grammatical errors.
Then they could be able to also read my written comments online before they come to see me. Then they will be able to access the feedback online. Then they started to reflect and ask questions in consultations. So another way that I tried is to use screencasting technology. Then I will give them a video about my comments about the writing. Then they will watch this video, very detailed feedback. Then, so based on my feedback, they start to think about what they should do about their learning. I also will suggest some of their few further activities that they should work on if they want to make more progress. So based on my students' feedback, individualized feedback actually help them to learn better. And I also see that they become more active when they come to consultation sessions. They start to raise questions instead of I just go through the script for them. They will say, okay, you said this in the video and you made these comments in the voice comments part. Can you further explain what do you mean by this? And I still cannot solve this problem by myself. So in this way, I guess this is going to make our interaction more effective. And as a teacher, I'm also very happy to see that they are reflecting and also they're acting upon my feedback. And then they understand more from you, from your support, and then they work on themselves, becoming an independent and confident learner. Effective teachers are effective learners. In my 8 years of teaching experience at our university, I've learned a lot from my students, my peer teachers, colleagues, and also scholars in the field. In a lot of occasions, for example, my teaching and learning activities and also professional activities. So I could be able to use these kinds of learning experience, and then I use them to enhance my teaching and learning. And of course, students also get a message that they also need to keep learning so that they could be able to be a lifelong learner. I hope my teaching not only could be able to help students to gain essential language skills that they will need for their future life and future studies, but also create a rippling effect in their lives of learning, growing their love to learning, and becoming a lifelong learner.